What if Batman had never crossed paths with the Robins? Without the training, without the legacy, without the bat symbol, what would have happened to Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Tim Drake, Stephanie Brown, and Damian Wayne? I'm Andrew the Geek Master, and in today's video, we're going to show what each of the Robins' lives would have been like if they had never met Batman. This question, what would the Robins' lives be like without Batman, isn't just a fan theory. It was officially explored in the comic Robins issue number 5, released in 2022. In this story, all the Robins, including Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, Stephanie Brown, and Damian Wayne, team up to find Tim Drake, who was mysteriously kidnapped. And the worst part is that the kidnapper was someone claiming to be the real first Robin. To find out where Tim is, the heroes enter a virtual reality program where they live an alternate version of their lives, having never crossed paths with Batman. Let's start by talking about what Dick Grayson's life would have been like, the very first Robin. Well, in this alternate world, after his parents' death, Dick was never adopted by Bruce Wayne. Instead, he grew up and decided to bring justice with his own hands, becoming a good police officer. But he didn't stop there. His skills led him to be recruited by the mysterious Spiral Agency, where he worked as the enigmatic Agent 37 under the command of Helena Bertinelli. Using highly advanced and dangerous hypnotic technology, Dick carried out missions in the name of the greater good. In other words, even without Batman, he still found a way to be a hero. But not everything was perfect. Spiral's technology came at a cost. It damaged the brain of whoever used it. And over time, the mix of lies, emotional isolation, and lack of trust even in his own heart ended up breaking Dick from the inside. He was corrupted, got involved with the wrong people, and the ending was dark. In the final panel of this reality, we see a completely lonely Dick. Some believe he went insane. Others say he was murdered. And there are those who believe he took his own life. Yes, that would have been Dick Grayson's life without Batman's influence. Thankfully, Bruce Wayne stepped into that boy's life and helped him become the hero we now know as Nightwing. Now let's talk about the second Robin, Jason Todd. What if he had never met Batman? Well, without Bruce Wayne in his life, Jason followed a completely different and surprising path. He became a professional race car driver, actually one of the best. He won prizes, recognition, and a lot of money. But instead of showing off, Jason did something incredible. He donated almost everything. He used the money to help rehab clinics, on a personal mission to prevent others from suffering like his mother, who was addicted to drugs. In one of the most powerful scenes, Jason wins $300 million and uses it all to build the Catherine Todd Rehabilitation Clinic. A noble, powerful, and deeply personal gesture. But just like with Dick Grayson, tragedy wasn't left out. Over time, Jason stopped winning races. The clinic started to struggle, and desperate for money, he ended up going back to what he used to do on the streets when he was young, stealing cars. As expected, he ended up getting caught and was, of course, arrested. The interesting thing is that unlike the other Robins, Jason did everything on his own. No support network, no mentor, following only his own moral compass. In the end, it seems that Jason was the one most like Bruce Wayne. Now we've reached the fourth Robin, Stephanie Brown. What would her life and future have looked like without the influence of the Dark Knight? Well, even without Bruce Wayne, Stephanie still found her path as a vigilante. She became the same determined spoiler as always. But in this reality, she went even further. She stood out so much that she ended up becoming the leader of the Teen Titans. And this wasn't just any team. It had big names like Blue Beetle, Aqualad, and even Supergirl. Steph was respected, admired, a true leader. But then came the mistake that changed everything. Stephanie tried to pull the Titans away from the influence of the Justice League adults. She wanted them to be independent, autonomous. But this ended up sparking a direct conflict with none other than Superman. Clark even tried to resolve the situation peacefully. He asked Stephanie to back down and bring the Titans back, but she flat out told Superman to go to hell. The result was a battle between the Justice League and the Teen Titans that, of course, ended with the League's victory. But Steph didn't just lose the fight. She lost something even more valuable: the trust and respect of her team. Rebelling against Superman seems unbalanced and extreme, but the truth is, Stephanie did it because without Batman, she never had a trustworthy adult by her side. That made her rebellious toward any figure of authority. Stephanie had the potential to become one of the greatest leaders in the DC universe, but without the balance Batman could have brought, she ended up sabotaging her own legacy. And now, let's talk about Batman's son, Damian Wayne. What if he had never met his father? Well, Damian, as everyone knows, is the grandson of Ra's al Ghul, the leader of the League of Assassins. Without his father's guidance, Damian dove deep into the family's roots. He became the unbeatable assassin his grandfather always wanted, the heir to the demon. But at some point, Damian tried to rebel against that destiny. He wanted to be more than what his grandfather expected of him. He even joined a Buddhist temple trying to find a different path. But as you might expect, he couldn't escape his own fate. Expelled from the temple for not fitting in, Damian lashed out and ended up hurting his own brothers. In the end, he had nothing left. With no choices, he returned to Ra's al Ghul, accepting the life that had always been prepared for him. Damian started wearing a red, yellow, and green suit, a clear reference to Robin, but now he wore those colors to serve evil. He was reduced to a simple assassin, set to replace Ra's al Ghul and lead the League of Assassins. There was no more room for redemption or fighting crime. It's hard to imagine, but without Batman, Damian would have never become Robin. He would have been consumed by his grandfather's dark legacy and maybe never used his abilities for anything good. Thankfully, Bruce Wayne came into Damian's life. Thanks to Batman, he found the path to redemption, became Robin, and chose to do what's right. Maybe you're wondering what Tim Drake's life would have looked like without Batman, but unfortunately, the comic doesn't show us because Tim ends up being kidnapped before we get to see what his life without the Bat would be like. But here's an interesting detail. That virtual reality program they used to see the Robin's alternate lives was created by Tim Drake himself, which only proves even more that he's a true genius. In the end, this story shows that, even without Batman, each of the Robins still had the potential to become something great, but also something tragic. What made the difference was Bruce Wayne's presence in each of their lives. Bruce didn't just train them, he inspired them. He gave them purpose, a family, and most importantly, a chance. Without Batman, some of them might have gotten lost. Others might have tried to do good, but in ways that would ultimately lead to their own downfall. What this comic proves is that, despite all of Bruce's traumas and flaws, he was the turning point in these young people's lives. Now let us know in the comments if you like this video and what you thought of each Robin's alternate story. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next ones. Thanks so much for watching, and until the next adventure.